Ohio Congressman Jim Jordan, the great chairman of the House Judiciary Committee and a very dear and old friend. Jim, I just want to put that in there. I mean, the 20s were fabulous.
I love it.
Okay.
Yeah, I love it. Cool cow, letting Americans keep more of their money. And guess what happens? Revenues to the Treasury go up. Imagine that. Sounds like Larry Kudlow. Larry Kudlow, 100 years later, doing the same thing, preaching the same message.
Trying. Anyway, terrific stuff. So, Jim Jordan, there may be some announcements imminent or maybe not, but let's talk just for a moment about the hearing. You presided over the deposition yesterday. I think the general point here is that we now know that Joe Biden has been lying about knowing his son's business activities. He lied during the 2020 debates, and he continues to lie since then. Just tell us, if you would, sir, what stands out in your mind from this deposition? What did you take away that was, particularly interesting? Yeah, Mr. Archer said that Hunter Biden, the value he brought to the business operation they were involved in was the Biden brand being Joe Biden, this powerful political figure in D.C. And I think you saw that manifest in this meeting that took place that I thought really stood out in yesterday's deposition or interview was this meeting that took place December 4th, 2015 in Dubai, where Hunter Biden and Devon Archer are meeting with the executives from Burisma, the guys who run Burisma, Mr. Zolochevsky. They're meeting with them, and at this meeting they say, the Burisma people say, we're under a lot of pressure. We need the United States government to help us out. And, of course, 5 days after this meeting, December 9th, 2015, Joe Biden goes to Ukraine and starts attacking the prosecutor. Now, also at that meeting on December 4th in Dubai, they have a phone call with D.C. Now, I don't know who it was. Mr. Archer said he didn't know. He wasn't right there when the phone call happened. He was at a different part of the hotel when that happened. But he knows that there was a call that took place, a call to D.C. Who they talked to, I don't know. But again, 5 days after this, Joe Biden takes action, which is the start of this process that now has become somewhat well known, where Joe Biden a few months later says, where he gives this talk to the folks in Ukraine, says, if you don't fire Shokin, the prosecutor, you're not getting the money. I mean, ironically, the same thing they went after President Trump for in the impeachment, but Joe Biden says he did it. That all starts in play on this December 9th speech he gives there, again, 5 days after this conversation takes place. So that, to me, was sort of the big takeaway from yesterday's interview. You mentioned Trump in that chronology. It's so interesting. They tried to impeach Trump because he had a phone call with President Zelensky. This was before the Russian invasion, right? And Trump's whole phone call was, you've got to get rid of the corruption in Ukraine. And now everything that's coming out about Biden shows just how heavy and thick the corruption was. I mean, Trump was completely right. Yeah. They tried to impeach him for it, and he was completely right. Exactly the case. And they've been after President Trump since he came down the escalator. Here we are, what now, 7, 8 years later, and it continues nonstop. And I think that's because President Trump was so effective at doing, including tax cuts, Larry, that you were a part of, but a host of other things that he told the voters he was going to do that he did. And, of course, the swamp didn't like that. The other big takeaway for me yesterday was it sort of confirms a number of things and just part of this long list. So remember, we had a business partner, Tony Bobulinski, back in 2020 say that email 10% for the big guy represented Joe Biden. Then, of course, we had the WhatsApp message where Hunter Biden says, I'm sitting beside my father, and this is what you have to do. Get the money here. Get it to us. And then you have that all confirmed with Devon Archer's statements yesterday, not to mention the 1023 form where you have the Burisma issue from the confidential human source saying Burisma was paying these guys. And again, even though Devon Archer didn't confirm all that yesterday, he told us more things that fit with that pattern of this activity from foreigners and Hunter Biden being involved and their relationship with his father. I just wanted to clarify this idea of the brand. The brand came up a lot in this hearing, or so we're told. And there's running a National Review online is running an article, just put it up, I don't know, within the hour, Jim, that Hunter Biden communicated to Devon Archer, who was his, best friend forever until recently, okay? Hunter Biden basically said, Everything we have to do is about my father. It's nothing to me. People don't care about me. Nothing bothers to me. Everything we're doing is about my father's last name, okay? I mean, it couldn't be. This was back in 2011, for heaven's sakes. The heavy-duty bribery stuff, the allegations were 2014 and 2015. I mean, what was the business? What was the brand? What exactly did the Biden family do? What product did they create? This wasn't exactly Andrew Mellon and Andrew Carnegie in the 20s inventing steel mills or Henry Ford inventing cars. What did the Bidens do? The guy's in office for 50 years. He walks out and buys himself huge mansions in Rehoboth Beach and Wilmington, Delaware. We have pictures of it up on the full screen. You may not be able to see it. What did he do for this money, Jim Jordan?
Yeah, it's access. And the Democrats tried to say yesterday it's this, quote, illusion of access. Well, there was no illusion about Joe Biden 5 days after this meeting in Dubai, then going to Ukraine and talking about the prosecutor's office and what's going wrong there and how it has to change. And then a few months later, they fire the prosecutor. That's not an illusion to access. That is just access, and that is just action. That's what it appears to be. And again, the timing, I think, of that is pretty suspicious. That's the kind of testimony we got yesterday. The brand, of course, is Joe Biden. Devin Archer was clear about that. The Biden brand was Joe Biden, the guy who has the influence in D.C., the place they called during this meeting in Dubai. All
right. Jim Jordan, a couple other things before we let you go. Jamie Comer mentioned yesterday in his press release that there are a dozen more suspicious activity reports. Can you shed any light on that?
I haven't had a chance to look at those yet, Larry. What I do also think is important is I thought yesterday's testimony shed new light on that plea agreement that the judge didn't go for last week.
Yeah.
Because remember, so much of what we learned yesterday was about Burisma, and that plea agreement left out the 2014, 2015, those tax years that were all about Burisma and the money that Hunter Biden received there. So you can, I think, begin to get a fuller picture of why they tried to get this one past the judge. But as you know, the judge was having no part of it. Why they tried to put the immunity agreement dealing with FARA, potential FARA issues, why they tried to put that in the diversion part of the agreement, the diversion part of the deal, instead of in the plea agreement where it would normally be. And as the judge got from the prosecution team, the government lawyers, she said, have you ever seen, has this ever been done? This is unprecedented. And the lawyer said, completely unprecedented, but they tried to do it anyway. So I thought yesterday also shed light on why they tried to structure that deal the way they did. And again, thank goodness the judge said, time out on that. You got to come back with something else in 30 days.
If you put your judiciary chair's hat back on, are you going to investigate this plea deal? I mean, do you have a greater curiosity about how this came about?
We sure do, because remember, the whistleblower's story has been consistent. Their testimony has not wavered one bit. It's been validated, I think, by stuff we've learned and validated by that FBI agent. David Weiss and Merrick Garland, their story has changed. David Weiss wrote 3 letters in 33 days. Each one said something different. That is a concern. So, yeah, we want to talk to 11 different people in the Justice Department that we've already let the Justice Department know we want to talk to these folks. And we're going to continue to move in that direction. This 30-day time frame, though, as they work out this deal, I think that could have some impact on it. But we are definitely going to try to talk to these folks and find out why it was structured the way it was. Who's telling the truth here, Larry? The whistleblowers or the Garland Justice Department and Mr. Weiss and the White House, where their story keeps changing? I think it's the whistleblowers who are being credible, who appear to be the most credible, and the ones who are giving us the facts and the truth.
And last one, Jim Jordan, the FARA, Foreign Agent Act. I mean, this was seldom used, but of course it was used against Trump people like Paul Manafort. Now it comes up again in this plea deal. I mean, it's very clear from what people are saying, particularly Devin Archer now, all these international foreign investments, the Chinese oil company, the Ukrainian oil company, I guess there's a Kazakhstan oil company, there's something going on in Romania, there may be Russia.
Yeah.
I mean, all this is foreign influence, foreign interference.
Right.
So, again, putting your judiciary chair hat on, are you going to explore and investigate all of that? Do you want to take this further on this Foreign Registration Act?
Yeah, I think the fundamental issue here is application, equal treatment under the law, equal application of the law. That is why Mr. Shapley and Mr. Ziegler, the two IRS agents, who again, I think whose credibility I think is unimpeachable, that's why they came forward, because they saw something completely different happen here with the Hunter Biden agreement and plea deal and what was charged and what wasn't charged versus what they did to Mr. Manafort, Mr. Flynn, and others where they went after these guys and they used FARA to do so. So that's the key distinction here, the equal application of the law. And again, those two whistleblowers, I think they've been superb. They've been consistent, and their credibility is, I think, frankly, unquestionable.
Impeachment inquiry, you going along with that?
If that's where the facts take us, I think the Speaker has been clear. He said if we have to go to that phase of this investigation, we will do it. I think our job right now under the Constitution is to continue to do oversight, continue to get the facts, continue to get the evidence. And then if we have to go to an inquiry phase, which is typically helpful in getting documents and information from these federal agencies in a much more timely fashion, if you get to that stage, courts have been pretty clear on that. So if we have to go there, I think the Speaker is willing to do that, and that's where we'll go.
All right, Jim Jordan, thank you, sir. As